look like I'm gonna have to try this shit again. Feel me? When it comes to try to say some shit. Um, Hopefully it comes out right. It doesn't get deleted. The ones that did get deleted, I was either talking to myself, thinking I was recording, or while I was in, like I did that shit over and over again. No cap. And then posted, and I didn't really care about how it came out. I don't even think I really listened to it. So my apologies. But let's get to it. Instead of saying it, if you want, get a piece of paper and a pencil, you know, because really this shit class. I'm learning in class, in the Astros, and then when I come back, while I'm in this town, or in this engine, the intuition comes through from my memory. Like, say a lot of people can't really remember their dreams. I was one of them, because at first, when I was a kid, I didn't really like dreaming, because most of it was nightmares due to fear and anxiety that I didn't, you feel me? You know, as a young buck, a lot of kids get pushed fear for no fucking reason, right? Especially when you're around people that's not like that. So me, growing up, I ended up being like rebellious, but still a good kid. But I wasn't out here being rebellious and doing fucked up shit. I was outside, feel me? Then I was grown. Pretty much in my eyes, I feel like I was grown or 15 till I was older. When I got depressed, I had to like regain myself back. So I always been God with some type of wisdom to the point. I'm the little nigga on the block, on the green box, talking to old heads and old heads telling other cats to listen to me. Feel me? Not saying right now that to listen to me, but I know I be fucking right. So for me to know I be right, like that was the whole battle. And then I've been doing my own testing on myself. Like there don't really be too many people to talk to about shit like this. Like really. So I be with my ancestors in nature when it comes to this shit. And I still speak on it because I know how the brain works. Feel me? So if I repeat something again, then I'm gonna repeat something again. That's just the way it is. So look, so we gonna retry this over even though my phone acting all freezy and shit. So I'm gonna put it in this view for I don't know if it's gonna pick up like it's freezing or whatever. So let's read some notes. Alright, so common variable immunodeficiency. There's no O in it. What do you think the O represents though? The oxygen, the O blood, the omega, omicron, oxide, all types of shit. Because what they always try to do, fuck with your air, right? Because when you're fucking with your air, you're fucking with reproduction. Because when your cells reproduce, it creates air. Well, it's supposed to create air. It only creates air when you're in a healthy diet. Feel me? Because the whole point is to alkaline the body. You feel me? That's the whole point. So you alkaline the body under the sun. Your cells can actually take in the UV to reproduce more in a positive bearing because the night the Knight Templar secrets was talking about either they turn into cannibal sodomites or nothing changes. But then you go to the definition of variant and medical meanings, it tells you about cellular subdivision going on. Either nothing happens is a positive variant, either a positive variant, a neutral variant, or a negative variant. You feel me? And either way it goes, that's how they coming. Cause we're already in the chamber, yo. This is what you need to understand. Pangea, or what you'll call it, or like DEA, the D being a G, Gaia, Pangaea, Pangaea. It's an arena, right? You see, the people are revealing how the ice walls go around. It's more like an oval. And if it was a box, it'd be a parallelogram type of cube. So we dealing with pyramids. Alright, so the thing about the arena, if you go to like Greek, they told you about Zeus and the Olympics. You feel me? And how Zeus at the Olympics was they had sacrifices going on. You feel me? They had sacrifices going on. So during these sacrifices, they were all sacrificing the dead, the animals to Zeus. See, Greeks resered sacrifices at Olympia. This is the meaning when Zeus is honored with the sacrifice of 100 oxen given by the people of Elis, the city responsible for the games of Olympia. At Olympia, there were hundreds of altars, with the most remarkable being the great altar of Zeus, which where 100 oxen were sacrificed to the god at each Olympic festival. Zeus' birthplace, Mount Lycaon, Lycaon, is the earliest known site where omnipotent God was worshipped. 10,000 of animals, mainly goats and sheep, were slaughtered in his honor. In fact, the mountaintop altar is basically a mound of animal ashes, carbo. The festival games were held in Olympia, a rural sanctuary site in the western Peloponnesus. The Greek that came, I don't know if I said that right, sorry, but the Greek that came to sanctuary of Zeus at Olympia shared the same religious beliefs and spoke the same language. So we all know who Zeus is, right? All right, getting back to the point. So to keep the gods happy, animals were sacrificed, killed as offerings. Animals, bulls, sheep, and pigs. They worshipped the gods in the temples where they made sacrifices of animals and precious things. The Romans believed that blood sacrifices were the best way to communicate with the gods. Greek animals, ox, goats, and sheep sacrifice took place within the sanctuary, usually at the altar in front of the temple, where assembled participants consuming the entrails of meat of the victim. Liquid offerings of libations. Greek and Rome animal sacrifice was performed, a ritual to communicate with the gods, heroes, and other divine beings. Such rituals were meant to ask the divine recipients for favors, protections, and help or to appease them. From different animals to people were being sacrificed to these deities. Sacrifices were made to the Artemis. In early times, human sacrifices have been offered to Artemis. So knowing Jesus, Jesus, Zeus, Satan, Jacob, Yaakov, Israel, Satan, Amen, Aman, Aman, Amen, Ra, Sangha. The Greek worship in these central locations according to nature of the particular deity, either within the city or in the countryside. Sacrifices took place within these sanctuaries, usually at an altar in front of the temple, with the assembled participants consuming the entrails of meat and victims. How did they do it? In sacrifice to the gods of the upper world, only certain portions were burned to the gods, such as high thigh bones or chine bones out of victims, some of the entrails or some pieces of the flesh with a layer of fat rolled round the whole together with libations of wine and oil, frankincense, and sacrificial cakes. The Olympics were a religious festival with sacrifices to the gods and meat for men. On the third day of the games, the great sacrifice took place on this altar, a hecatombe, 100 oxen slaughtered. So the thing is, what was they talking about? Cattle, right? It was talking about cattle. Yeah, they do it with animals. You feel me? There's a lot of those tied to the three ultimates, those animals. So you feel me? So they use the three animals. Kill them with goat, sheep, ox. And then astrology will tell you a little bit about that too, but for me not to really be on that, really fully, I'm just speaking. So that's witch shit. But yeah, let's get back to topic because we was talking about this immunodeficiency that's going around, right? Which is another word for HIV, Jacob's disease, the Jacob's Crutchfield disease, whatever. To notice is all different names, still talking about the same shit. One is just more serious than the other, maybe. So let's get to it. Alright, so common variable efficiency, which is that without the O, is an immune disorder characterized by recurring infections and antibody levels, specifically in immunoglobulin types of I, lowercase g, capital G, IgLY, IgA. Generally, symptoms include high susceptibility to foreign invaders, chronic lung disease, and inflammation and infection of gastrointestinal tract. It affects males and females equally. The condition can be found in children diagnosis 20 through 50. However, symptoms vary greatly between people. Variables refers to the heterogeneous clinical manifestations of the disorder, which include recurrent bacterial infections, increased risk for autoimmune disease and lymphoma, as well as gastrointestinal disease, CVID, is a lifelong disease. The cause of CVID is uh, poorly understood. Deletions in the genes, deletions in genes in the encode cell surface proteins and the cytokine receptors, such as CD19 CD20, CD21, CD8 is likely the cause. A deletion is a mutation, and which part of the chromosomes is lost during the DNA replication, which may include several genes or as few as single base pair. Additionally, the disease is defined by eye cell defects, namely reduced proliferative capacity. The disease is hard to diagnose, taking on an average of 6 to 7 years after on SAT CVID is primary immunodeficiency. The treatment options are limited and usually include lifelong immunoglobulin replacement therapy. This therapy is thought to help reduce bacterial infections. This treatment alone is not wholly effective, and many people still experience other symptoms like lung disease and non-infection inflammatory symptoms. What was the first diagnosed over 60 years since emerged as predominant class of primary antibody deficiencies? Hypogammaglobulinemia. Hypogammaglobulinemia is an abnormally low level of of immune immunoglobulin in the blood, and your hemoglobin pretty much transfer your proteins to your respiratory system for the red blood cells. So that's why when they spike the proteins through a jab, through um, the food, because the food is spiked proteins too. It does the same shit. It clogs up your sodium channels, which stops your blood to flow like a river bank. Because just like on the Avatar, the old dude that was talking to Aang, it was like your chakras, they're supposed to flow. But they're supposed to flow on a physical and mental state because it gives the A and B energy to spark the gamma to denote a new energy, which is the diamond energy. Feel me? Because your cells are trying to come together like that. When they come together in trinities, the trinities is represented by a triangle, which means denoting new energy. Okay? Either up or down. When you see an upside down triangle, like on my my symbolism on my name, that's talking about a cycle. And you're the X from the sun and the planet. But let's continue. An abnormally low level of immunoglobulins in the blood, it is thought to affect between 1 in 25,000 to 1 in 50,000 people worldwide. The underlying causes CVID are largely obscure. Genetic mutations can be identified as the cause of this disease in about 10% of people, while familiar inheritance accounts for 10 to 25% of cases, rather than arising from a single genetic mutation. CVID seems to result from a variety of mutations that all contribute to a failure in antibodies production. Mutation in genes encoding ICOS, TACI, CD19, CD21, CD80, and BFFR have been identified as causative of CVID. Susceptibility to COVID may be linked to major histocompatibility complex genome, particularly Dr. DRDO haplotype. That's what we need to look up next. Haplotype. Alright, so a mutation in NFKB2 gene have been recently been shown to cause CVID like symptoms in a marine mammal. The frequency of NFKB2 mutation in CVID population is, however, yet to be established. Etymology: CVID has estimated prevalence of 1 in 50,000 in Caucasians. The disease seemed to be less prevalent to Asians and African Americans. Males and females are equally affected, however, among children, boys predominate. Recent studies of people of European descent with primary immunodeficiencies found that 30% had CVID as opposed to different immunodeficiencies. 10 to 25% of the people inherited disease, typically through autosomal dominant inheritance. Given the rarity of the disease, it is not yet possible to generalize on disease prevalence among ethnic and radical groups. As any antibiotic deficiency, the most common type of infections involve ear, sinus, nose, lungs, pneumonia, chronic coughing, which lasts for a few weeks or months, gastrointestinal infection, sinusitis, sinusitis, whatever. And I'm gonna add polyarthritis. Immunodeficiency compromise. Many diseases are genetic defects affecting the immune system. There are roughly isoimmunodeficiencies spanning over 120 genetic defects. Charles Janeway Sir is generally credited with the first description of the case of CVID in 1953. The case involved a 39-year-old who recurrent infections, bronchitis, and meningitis. Though described in 1953, there was no standard definition for CVID until the 1990s, which caused widespread confusion during diagnosis. During the 1990s, the European Society for Immunodeficiency, ESID, and the Pan American Group for Immunodeficiency, PAGID, developed diagnostic for the disease. This criteria were published in 1999, and since that time, some aspects, like increasing the minimum wage, has been changed. So then it goes, carbon monoxide plays an important biological role across phylogenetic kingdoms in the mammalian cytology. Carbon monoxide is a classical example of Armiasis or Ormesis, where low concentrates serve as indigenous neurotransmitters. Gasotransmitters in high concentrations are toxic, resulting in a carbon monoxide poisoning. This is why I say it is also isoelectronic with cyanide oxide. This is why I say the clouds is really the EMP. That's why niggas' cars be feeling all weird and shit. And like, it be feeling like somebody put sugar in your tank or something. Yeah, because it was sitting, taking in all them clouds the whole time you was driving or while sitting. So it has to like warm up a little bit. But it's heating up at the same time, so that's also changing the state of matter of the car. Is the car built for this shit? Who knows? Because, you know, they made cars a little more weaker. So, but yeah. What time is it? So the French. Alright, so French. This is what I'm saying. I had this shit a minute ago. Alright, 2021. French chemist de la Somme produced CO by heating zinc oxide with coke, but mistakenly concluded that gaseous products was hydrogen as it burned a blue flame. In the presence of oxygen, including atmospheric concentrations, Carbon monoxide burns blue flame, producing carbon dioxide. Antoine Lavoisier conducted similar and conclusive experiments as Lassonde in 1777, which is around the time when this shit first went down. They have a movie or a show called La Revolution on Netflix, and it ties down to what's going on now and the black blood or the blue blood people. It's all on Netflix on that Live Revolution. Feel me? To kind of give you another insight on it. So, anyways, the gas identified as a compound containing oxygen and carbon by William Cruikshank in the 1800s. Thomas Bettis and James Watt recognized carbon monoxide as hydrocarbonate to brighten venous blood in 1793. So carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur represents the six most important chemical elements whose covalent combinations make up the biological molecules on Earth. All non-metals found in carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. So micron, this is what I saw gematria. So micron reptoid, he had to face David Rockefeller. This is a legal tender for all debts, public and private. On it about Russian detained in Bangkok. What picture was posted in Cages Full? What picture was posted with Cages Full in Russia? But yeah. So when the immunodeficiency started working and it fucks with your lymphatic system, I would say go check out Yaki Awaken because he can actually break down shit that actually works. Like I was going through it and I was just like, I'ma just fast for once. But I was eating fruits. It was way before I even heard anyway. I looked up some people and they was like, because it made no sense to me why I couldn't just eat fruits only. So I was like, somebody told me when I was a kid they eat fruit in heaven too. So I was just eating fruit. Because I couldn't even eat nothing else. I ain't want no shrimp, I ain't want no chicken, I ain't want no steak, tacos, just learning how to cook. Now, that's what happened during that time. And then the shit that I would hear make it sick. It was perfect timing. So sometimes when you see, you actually receive because that's giving out an output. So dealing with the body, if it came from within, it's gonna come output too. There's inputs and outputs to your body. That's your music. It's like a speaker. The thing that battery that A and B come together for the next C. Once you get that C unlocked, birds die, and it's gonna go. So look, because it's gonna be no the energy with a higher range. That's the dying. Real. Say things in the back of their knee and their leg. So dealing with that, there's a word called sarc, right? Is very ligament tumors composed of neoplastic cells resembling